I transmigrated and became the villainous male side character. The female lead was just persuading the male lead to go to jail in my place, promising to marry him after he got out. That night, I carried my bicycle to the police station and turned myself in. No kidding, don't drag me into your legally illiterate nonsense. Seriously, girl, your thinking is dangerous. Do you really want to go to jail that badly? When I woke up, I heard a man and a woman talking outside the door. Makoto, as long as you take the fall for George and serve 5 years, I'll marry you. A flood of memories surged into my head, and I realized I had transmigrated into a melodramatic, angst-filled romance novel as the villainous supporting male character. I'm George, your typical rich, handsome, elite guy. Childhood friends with the female lead, Willow. I was her dream guy. One night, after getting drunk, I accidentally hit someone with my car. To help me, Willow had the male lead Makoto take the blame and serve a 5-year sentence. As a trade, she promised to marry him once he was released, but 5 years later, the only thing waiting for her was a pile of bones. Grief-stricken, Willow finally realized the one she truly loved was Makoto. Later, at an event, she unexpectedly encountered a man who looked about 70% like Makoto, and that's when she found out Makoto had faked his death to escape her. Shocked and furious, Willow also felt a surge of joy she couldn't bring herself to admit. The two reunited and rekindled their twisted, entangled love story full of unresolved emotions. As for me, I was nothing more than a plot device, the metaphorical stepping stone for their love story. After causing all kinds of chaos, I was finally exposed by the now awakened female lead, and met a miserable end. I was the ultimate tragic clown. Chapter 1. I jumped out of bed, went to the door, and peered outside. The two of them were standing there, he tall, she slim. Makoto's eyes were red. He gave Willow a bitter smile and said, "This is what you want? Fine, I'll do it." My heart skipped a beat. Bro, don't agree to this. That's a crime, obstruction of justice. At that moment, Willow seemed to sense something. She turned and looked back, her face full of concern. "George, why are you up? You're still recovering, go lie down and rest." Makoto stared at us, looking dazed. I forced a smile and said, "I just remembered I left something in the car. I need to go get it." In this plot, I had just hit someone and panicked, fled the scene, then came to Willow. Supposedly, I even fainted from extreme shock. Damn, this male side character is a real coward. Willow hesitated for a moment. "What is it?" "I'll have someone fetch it. It's something really important," I said with difficulty. "I'd feel better getting it myself." Willow assumed I was worried about leaving behind evidence, and finally nodded in agreement. I rushed out the door, jumped on my bike, and raced to the nearest police station. 2 officers were on duty. Seeing how frantic I looked, they asked, "Is there something wrong?" Panting, I said, I want to turn myself in." Their expressions turned serious instantly. I quickly explained everything. I had half a beer earlier, then drove and hit someone. I panicked and ran, then I remembered it's illegal, so I hurried back. I called an ambulance on the way. I don't know how the person's doing now. You should go check quickly. Like spilling beans from a bamboo tube. I confessed everything honestly. I even rolled up my sleeve and showed my arm. "Oh right, you'd better draw my blood and do an alcohol test right away." The 2 officers looked at each other speechless. This level of self-reporting might just set a record in the history of turning yourself in, but they were quick to act, securing me and dispatching officers to the scene. I finally collapsed into a chair with a sigh of relief. Phew, hope it's not too late. Just then, Willow called, "George, what's taking you so long? Did something happen?" I coughed and said, "I've thought about it a lot. In the end, this was my fault, so I turned myself in." "What?" Willow cried out in disbelief. "I'm at the police station now. Can't talk," I said vaguely and hung up without hesitation. At this point in the original story, George had just returned to the country and was shocked to find that Willow, who had always chased after him, now had a man named Makoto by her side, and she seemed to care about him a lot. Jealous, George splashed some liquor on his clothes, pretending to be drunk, and used that as an excuse to test Willow's reaction. To make it more convincing, he even drank a bit, though not enough for a DUI. More importantly, the person he hit wasn't seriously injured, just a bit of scraped skin. When George first realized he'd hit someone, he panicked, but didn't flee immediately. He got out to check and saw the person already had a broken bone. The bump he gave barely made a difference. That's when George had an idea. He promised the guy compensation and asked him to help stage a scene. He deliberately set a trap, wanting Willow to be the one to send Makoto to prison. That way, Makoto would be tainted with a permanent criminal record, and their relationship would be destroyed. 2 birds, 1 stone. George was confident that within those 5 years, he could make Willow forget about Makoto and fall back in love with him. When I came earlier, I had already talked things through with the person who got hit. The money will still be paid, but we must tell the truth. Chapter 2. By now, he should have already been taken to the hospital for a full checkup, of course. The same hospital where he was previously treated for a broken bone. Willow also rushed over as fast as she could. After all, she was a spoiled rich girl. Willow managed to dismiss the officer watching over me and got a chance to speak to me alone. "George, you were too impulsive," she said, clearly flustered. "Your health wasn't good to begin with. Now that you've stirred up trouble, what about your surgery?" "Surgery? What surgery?" I froze for a second, and then it hit me. Holy crap, how could I have forgotten? Before sending Makoto to prison, Willow even forcibly harvested one of his kidneys to transplant into me because of my kidney failure. And that so-called kidney failure, it was made up by George himself. His goal was to manipulate Willow into harming Makoto. That also laid the groundwork for Makoto's later fake death to escape from Willow. Without that step, how else could you have the fall from grace then grovel for love arc? The plan had been running smoothly, except for one problem. I'm not the original George. Just thinking about the fact that the male lead's kidney was taken out for me made me feel phantom pains in my own body. I looked at her and quickly said, "I was just about to tell you, after this is over, I want to get checked at a few more hospitals. What if it turns out to be a misdiagnosis?" Willow bit her red lips, then threw herself into my arms with teary eyes. "George, I know this is hard for you to accept. Don't be scared. I'll always stay by your side." I got goosebumps all over. "Girl, you were literally in bed with the male lead yesterday, and now you're throwing yourself at another man. Aren't you exhausted?" I calmly pushed her away and said, "Let's wait for the hospital report first. By the way, where's that guy Ito? Didn't he come with you?" At my question, a flicker of irritation crossed Willow's face. "Forget about him." No surprise, Makoto obviously didn't come. What kind of guy could stand there and watch the woman he loves fawn all over another man? But hey, maybe this will help him realize that the female lead is a whole mess, and it's better to run while he still can. "So, you're staying here to wait with me?" That way she wouldn't run back to Makoto and start spewing more toxic nonsense. Of course, Willow didn't refuse my request. She was most afraid I'd end up in jail, so not long after, she went outside to make a call. Seeing her pacing with furrowed brows and a worried expression, I yawned. She was obviously trying to pull strings, but it would be useless. Even though this is a toxic love story genre, the heiress doesn't have omnipotent powers. If she did, the original male lead wouldn't have ended up doing 5 years in prison. And besides, without me secretly orchestrating things behind the scenes, this car accident was just a minor incident, not nearly enough to blow up. Sure enough, just as I predicted, the guy went to the hospital and was diagnosed with only 2 minor bruises. The most serious injury, the fracture, was from an old wound. My blood alcohol level was also very low, nowhere near the threshold for a DUI. In the end, my license was suspended with 12 points deducted, and I paid a 2,000 yuan fine. I was very satisfied with the result. I've got more than enough money. Worst case, I just won't drive anymore. I'll hire a chauffeur. The most important thing, the male lead no longer had to go to jail in my place. Willow seemed puzzled by the outcome, worried she might start suspecting something. I explained a bit further. Actually, I didn't drink much that day. I just spilled some alcohol on myself. Good thing the guy wasn't seriously hurt, or things would have gotten messy. The doubt finally disappeared from Willow's eyes. She gently leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I'm just glad you're okay. You have no idea how scared I was when you came to me that night." I rolled my eyes inwardly. "You're this timid, and you still tried to break the law. Unbelievable." Still, I had to keep up George's basic persona as a sleazy rich guy, so I added, "By the way, come with me for a follow-up at the hospital. That fake medical report from before had been fabricated by George. As long as we go to the hospital again, everything can be smoothly explained away." Willow agreed immediately. "Okay, I'll go with you right now." She was about to call a private hospital to clear the floor for us. I quickly stopped her and said firmly, "No need to go that far. The public hospital at a university is fine." Willow frowned. "There are way too many people there. It'll be noisy and affect your rest." I swallowed down my irritation. "You don't know anything. That's a proper public Class A tertiary hospital. Private hospitals can't even match the equipment. What's the point of going there? I don't want to trouble you. It's just a quick checkup." Seeing that I insisted, Willow finally gave in and went with me to that hospital. But what I didn't expect was that we'd run into Makoto there. Chapter 3. He was holding a thermal lunchbox. With light shadows under his eyes, it was obvious he hadn't slept all night. But of course, the male lead was still the male lead. Even exhausted, he still looked annoyingly handsome. Makoto also saw me, along with Willow by my side. A flash of repressed emotion passed through his eyes. Just as we were about to walk past each other, Willow suddenly called out to him, "What are you doing here?" Makoto replied flatly, "None of your business." His cold tone visibly irritated Willow. and she was about to press further when a young woman in a white lab coat suddenly walked toward us from down the hallway. "Makoto, what took you so long?" I turned to look and saw a gentle, elegant face. She walked up to Makoto, her eyes full of concern. She paused briefly when she noticed Willow and me. She asked, "Are these your friends?" Makoto shook his head. "I don't know them. Let's go." I instinctively glanced at Willow. Oof, her face had turned green with jealousy. She stared daggers at their backs as they walked away. If I hadn't been standing right there, I'm pretty sure she would have chased after them and started yelling. It was also at this moment that I remembered who that woman was, Maria. Maria was Makoto's senior from university, a brilliant medical student who had fallen for him at first sight. She stayed quietly by his side for years. When Makoto faked his death to escape Willow later, it was Maria who helped him pull it off. And right now, yes, this should be the part where Makoto's mother has a sudden heart attack, and he brings her to the hospital. Makoto actually had a very tragic backstory. His father was a gambler who racked up huge debts and then disappeared, leaving Makoto to bear the burden. Willow paid off the debts for him and kept him around like a disposable servant. To put it bluntly, Makoto had sold himself to Willow, but over those 4 years, he fell hopelessly in love with her. She was young and beautiful. After all, it wasn't until Willow asked him to take the fall for George that he finally realized how naive and foolish he had been to think she genuinely cared for him. But Willow had no idea. She thought this man would endure anything just to marry her, and to her, the promise of marriage was the highest reward she could offer. During Makoto's 5 years in prison, it was Maria who helped take care of his mother. Unfortunately, just before his release, his mother passed away despite emergency treatment. That only made Makoto resent Willow even more. How the story somehow managed to have a happy ending after all that, I'll never understand. My presence had altered the plot. The female lead and the second female lead had now met much earlier than in the original timeline. Still, it seemed to have become some sort of emotional catalyst. I could practically hear Willow grinding her teeth. She didn't even realize yet that this emotion she was feeling was jealousy. But honestly, what's the point of being jealous? Makoto's mother is on her deathbed, and here you are making yourself miserable over whether he still loves you. You really think you can compare to someone like Maria, who's been silently supporting him all this time? I honestly think Maria's a way better match for him than Willow. Willow, I called her name, and she finally snapped out of it, gathering her emotions. "I'll go with you to pick up the test results," she said. Just as expected, my results came back perfectly normal. I let out a long sigh of relief. Thank God, Makoto gets to keep both kidneys. But Willow didn't seem too happy. After getting the results, she looked distracted the whole time, still hung up on Makoto. "You weren't there when he needed you, and now that he's moved on, you're the one upset?" I asked proactively. We didn't get a chance to ask him why he was here. "Want to go check?" Willow's expression darkened. "He's not that close to us. Why should we care?" I seriously wanted to clap for that line. Now that's what you call saying the opposite of what you mean. He was right in front of you and you didn't say a word. What's the point of having a mouth? Let's be real, if not for you, the male lead wouldn't have suffered so much in the first place. Maybe that scene with Maria triggered her too deeply. She didn't want to stay a second longer and quickly dragged me away. After dropping her off at home, I turned right back around and took a cab back to the hospital to find Makoto. He was visibly surprised to see me, confirming again, "You're here to see me?" I got straight to the point. "You short on money?" A flicker of wariness instantly flashed across Makoto's face. "I got it just a short while ago. Willow had tried to make him go to prison for me. He definitely saw me as one of the bad guys." I glanced at his mother, who had just fallen asleep in the hospital bed, then gestured for him to step outside. He hesitated for a moment but followed me. "Your mom's going to need surgery, right? That costs money. Not to mention the rehab afterward, it won't be cheap." I handed him a bank card and said, "This should cover it." Makoto didn't take it immediately. "What's the catch? You want me to leave Willow?" I smiled. "Not at all. I want to hire you to work at my company." Makoto froze, like he thought he'd misheard me. "You want what now?" Chapter 4, I said. "I've seen your graduation project. It's excellent. Coincidentally, my company needs a designer. If you're willing to join, consider this money as an advance on your salary." Makoto majored in design in college. He's incredibly talented. Originally, he had the potential to shine after graduation, but he was set up by George and sent to prison. 5 years later, he re-emerged with a new identity and became the CEO of a major advertising firm when he crossed paths with Willow again. He's a true goldmine waiting to explode. "If I don't invest now, when will I?" Makoto looked hesitant and asked again, "So, you want to buy my design work?" "Wait, what?" That didn't sound quite right. Makoto looked down at the bank card in my hand, then seemed to come to a decision. He took a deep breath and said, "All right, I agree. For the next year, all of my design work can be released under your name." What the? I completely forgot about that plotline. In the original story, George was jealous of Makoto's talent. He had someone steal Makoto's design draft and won a prestigious design competition with it, screwing Makoto over big time. That incident actually happened just a month ago. Makoto mentioned it to Willow once, but she thought he was just being petty and jealous. The two had a major falling out and nearly broke up. Now that I suddenly brought up this offer, no wonder Makoto misunderstood me. I quickly explained, "No, that's not it. I genuinely want to hire you. All of your designs will be credited to you. What happened at the competition, that was my fault. I apologize. I'll pay you the prize money and full compensation. If that's still not enough, I can even give you a portion of the company's shares." Come on, he's a future industry tycoon who'll be raking in money by the truckload. Starting a business with him, that's a guaranteed win for me. Makoto probably thought I was crazy, but he really needed the money right now, so he didn't ask further and agreed. Having handed him the card and locked in our partnership, I felt like I was walking on air. I hadn't just preserved my karma, I'd opened a new financial stream for myself. Most importantly, in the future, Willow would have zero reason to seek revenge on me in the name of true love. Come on, being a rich, handsome, carefree bachelor isn't a bad gig. Life was sweet. So, I called up a few friends and went out drinking to celebrate. "Hey George, where's Miss Lou tonight?" one of the guys teased. "She actually let you come to a place like this alone?" I lifted my glass with a grin. "She's busy. Bringing her to a gathering like this would have killed the vibe anyway." Another guy chuckled too. "Plenty of guys can't even get near her, and yet you spend all your time trying to avoid her. You really don't know how to enjoy life." Huh? His tone had a hint of jealousy. I smiled. These guys are so naive. What they don't realize is, her heart's actually with Makoto. And girls like her, when they're sweet to you, they're really sweet. But once they flip, they'll cut you down without blinking. Being her favorite is just a curse in disguise. At that moment, another guy came back from the restroom and sat next to me with a mysterious look on his face. "George, guess who I just saw downstairs?" I asked casually. "Who?" He snickered. "Makoto." "What?" I froze. "What's he doing here?" "Take a wild guess." The guy sneered. "Obviously because Willow dumped him. What a moron. Thought she was actually in love with him when she was just playing around. Poor dude's trying to cling to a fantasy. In her eyes, he's nothing." He handed me a cigarette and moved to light it. "Just some pretty boy gigolo. Doesn't even know his place. Thought he could compete with George for Willow. Please." His tone was clearly trying to curry favor with me. After all, everyone knew Willow liked me. Whatever I said, she never contradicted me. But I felt a strange sense of unease. I pushed his hand away and stood up. "I'm going to take a look." I stepped out of the private room and walked over to the second floor railing. Looking down, I spotted Makoto immediately. This was a members-only club. The first floor was the lounge, while the private rooms were upstairs, reserved for VIPs. Makoto was clearly in trouble. A wealthy woman in her 40s had cornered him. She looked tipsy. "Come on, we've known each other for ages. Can't even share a drink now that we've run into each other." Makoto's face was stiff with discomfort. Back when he was paying off his dad's gambling debts, he had worked here for a while. After getting together with Willow, he naturally quit the companion gig, but now that word had gotten around that I was back and Willow had ditched him, all those rich older women who'd been eyeing him were back on the prowl. I was just about to go downstairs when I suddenly heard a teasing voice from around the corner. "Miss Lou, not going to check on him?" I froze. Willow was here too. She seemed to be attending a formal event tonight, wearing an elegant gown with flawless makeup. She exuded luxury. Standing beside her was a man, probably a business partner. Chapter 5. Willow used to take Makoto to events like this all the time. But tonight, she was upstairs, Makoto was downstairs. Anyone with a brain could figure out what that meant. Willow had really dumped Makoto. Otherwise, that man wouldn't have spoken to her with such a flippant tone. Just then, someone downstairs noticed Willow and shouted, "Chairwoman Lou." Instantly, all eyes turned to the second floor. Makoto also looked up in a daze. He looked at Willow first, then spotted me. His gaze darkened. Now I was conflicted. This whole part wasn't in the original plot. According to the book, Makoto was supposed to be in jail right now, waiting for sentencing. What was he doing here? In the middle of some chaotic drama? What the hell happens next? And then, Willow suddenly spoke. "George." "Huh? I thought I'd been hiding well. How could she spot me from up here? I'd told her I was staying in and resting tonight. How was I supposed to know we'd run into each other here?" Before I could figure out an excuse, Willow had already walked over. I kept a polite smile on my face and said, "A friend called me out last minute. I couldn't say no. Didn't have time to tell you, hope you don't mind." Willow's expression was gentle now, completely different from the icy look she had just given downstairs. Tilting her head with a sweet smile, she said, "Of course not." Great. Now I was sure, she was deliberately putting on a show for Makoto. Makoto took it all in. then calmly looked away. The wealthy older woman who had cornered him earlier hesitated when she realized Willow was here too. Seemingly unsure of her position now, she said, "Oh, Miss Liu, I didn't expect you here. Hee. I just thought I'd catch up with Makoto. It's been so long. Just wanted to buy him a drink. Please don't misunderstand." Willow leaned slightly into my arms, finally casting her gaze downstairs again. Her voice turned cold. "Misunderstand what? He was doing this kind of low-class work, after all. Holy shit. What the actual hell? Who gave you a mouth just so you could say stuff like that?" I immediately looked at Makoto. He stood frozen in place, not reacting. But his clenched jaw said it all. He was far from fine. There's nothing more brutal than an insult designed to humiliate. Being publicly shamed in front of everyone like this, who could stomach that? I couldn't help but whisper to Willow, "His face doesn't look good. Maybe let this drink go." Willow didn't budge. He's the one who came to this place. Unbelievable. Suppressing my irritation, I took a step back. I couldn't count on this woman. I needed to separate these two as soon as possible, before things spiraled further. Right then, a round of cheers erupted from downstairs. I looked over and saw Makoto had downed the drink in his hand in one go. The crowd roared in excitement, while Willow's face turned bright red with anger. Makoto set down the glass and spoke coldly, "Director Zhao, I drank. Can I leave now?" The rich woman seemed to enjoy seeing him humiliated. Chuckling, she said, "One drink, that's it. Come on. Makoto, you used to be famous for holding your liquor. What? Can't even give me that much face." I took a deep breath. Mr. Ito. Everyone turned to look, eyes full of gossip. After all, this was the first time Willow's two men had confronted each other in public. Whatever happened next would be the talk of the town. Even Willow frowned and called out, "George?" I smiled and said, "I had an appointment with him to review some design drafts. If he drinks too much, he might not be able to show me anything tomorrow." Without caring about Willow's reaction, I walked straight down to Makoto. I asked, "You didn't drive, did you? Want my driver to take you home?" Makoto gave me a strange look and started to speak. Before he could finish, his expression twisted in pain and he suddenly clutched his chest. I froze. "What's wrong?" The rich woman mocked. "What? Just one drink and you're like this? Don't be dramatic." Makoto collapsed toward the ground. I quickly caught him. "What's wrong?" His face was deathly pale. I didn't have time to think. I shouted, "Call an ambulance." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Willow lose all composure. Her face filled with panic as she sprinted down the stairs. Makoto. Makoto had a hereditary heart condition. Now I sat on a bench in the hospital hallway, letting out yet another sigh. In the original story, Makoto's condition flared up right before he went to prison, after a huge fight with Willow. Since I'd intervened and prevented him from getting arrested, I thought maybe this wouldn't happen anymore, but I was wrong. I glanced over. Willow still hadn't recovered. She was sitting in a daze, completely hollowed out. She had no idea Makoto had a heart condition. If they hadn't gotten him here in time today. Just then, Maria walked out of the ward and looked in my direction. "George?" I stood up. "Here." Maria looked me over for a moment, then said, "He's awake. He wants to see you." I was stunned. Me. The first person he wanted to see wasn't Willow. Chapter 6. Willow had already stood up, intending to go straight into the room, but upon hearing that, she instantly furrowed her brows, the classic Liu family expression, and gave Maria a sharp look. The meaning was obvious. She suspected Maria was lying just to keep her from entering. But Maria was a doctor, and this was a hospital. Willow couldn't make a scene. Too embarrassing. I couldn't be bothered with her. I simply nodded and said, "All right, I'll go in and see him." Makoto lay in bed, his face pale as paper. When he heard the door, he turned his head. He looked like someone who had been shrouded in ash, drained, lifeless. I sat down next to him, thinking for a long time before managing to say, "Medicine's come a long way now. Treatments for this kind of condition are well established. The sooner you start, the better your chances." Makoto was silent for a while. Then he shook his head and said, "Actually, I wanted to thank you. Out of everyone there, you were the only one who helped me." I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. Getting humiliated like that in front of a crowd, only to find out you have a heart condition, it'd be a lot for anyone to handle. Especially since Willow stood there the whole time, aloof and cold, like it had nothing to do with her. I genuinely said, "Bro, it's not worth getting torn up over a woman like her." Makoto looked genuinely startled, clearly not expecting those words from me. He gave a bitter, self-deprecating smile. "She doesn't love me, so she acts that way. But she loves you. She's willing to do anything for you." I was just too naive to think she ever truly had feelings for me. I shook my head. "No, she doesn't love me either. A woman like her doesn't even know what love is, let alone how to love someone. Honestly, the only person she's ever truly loved is herself." Makoto was stunned. "But she chased after you for so many years." I shrugged. "She wouldn't even go to jail for me. Is that what you call love?" If she truly loved me to the point of life and death, then she should have stood up herself and taken the fall, not drag some innocent guy into it. Makoto was speechless. He'd probably never looked at it from this angle before. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. I patted his arm. Believe it or not, if you keep getting entangled with a woman like that, it'll only bring you more pain. You're too talented to waste your whole forest on one damn tree. Makoto looked lost in thought. He'd loved Willow for 4 whole years. No matter how many times she hurt him, he never had the heart to truly let go. By now, it had become a habit, almost a reflex. So it was perfectly normal that he'd be dazed after hearing me say all this. But the truth is, guys who bend over backward like that, simp that hard, usually end up with nothing. I didn't expect to fix everything with just one conversation. As his 4 drip neared the end, I stood and said, "I'll go call the nurse to take the needle out." Maria entered with the nurse, and trailing behind her was Willow. She grabbed my hand tightly and asked, "George, what did he say to you? Was he giving you trouble?" She looked like she was worried Makoto might harm me somehow, as if she'd forgotten the man had just had a heart attack. What exactly could he do? I was honestly starting to pity the guy. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Makoto shut his eyes, clearly not wanting to look at her anymore. I pulled my hand from Willow's and said calmly, "No, he's still weak. Let's not disturb him. Let's go." But Willow stood rooted to the spot, like her feet were glued down. I almost laughed. She obviously still couldn't let go of Makoto, but she just couldn't swallow her pride. Even now, she hadn't managed to say a single word of apology. Makoto really hit the jackpot with this one, pure bad luck. The nurse removed the 4 needle, and Maria came to his side, her eyes full of concern. She spoke gently, "Makoto, have some water." She poured a cup of warm water and handed it to him, then helped him sit up against the headboard. Makoto gave her a faint smile and said, "Thanks, senior." Maria replied softly, "Take good care of yourself, or someone's going to be worried again." She said it purely out of concern, referring to Makoto's mother. With her quiet and gentle personality, she would never drop a flirtatious remark at a moment like this. But to Willow, it sounded completely different. She saw it as a challenge. Storming forward, she yanked Maria aside and slapped her, hard. Smack. "Who said you could touch him?" I was speechless. My God, lady, how does your brain even work? You treat the male lead like crap, and then lose it when someone else treats him kindly. This isn't some undying love. This feels more like a personal vendetta. Maria wasn't prepared for it at all, and half her face instantly swelled with red. Makoto's expression changed. He shouted, "Senior, Willow, what the hell are you doing?" He shouldn't have shouted, that only made things worse. Willow let out a cold laugh. "You've been in love with her this whole time, haven't you?" Makoto nearly exploded. "What kind of insane nonsense are you spouting?" Maria tried to calm him, worried his emotional spike might worsen his condition. She pressed down on his shoulder gently. "Makoto, don't worry, I'm fine." But the red slap mark on her face was still glaringly visible. As Willow saw their hands resting on each other, she completely snapped. "So you've been sleeping with her behind my back this whole time? Huh? What the?" Look, I knew melodramatic romance plots could get wild, but this was next level unhinged. For a second, I actually felt like sacrificing myself for the greater good, like cutting off my own orange buddies in despair. Makoto was clearly furious. "Willow, watch your damn mouth." Willow finally seemed to realize how out of line she'd been. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes. She took a step forward, as if she wanted to say something, but then stopped herself mid-motion. Makoto took a deep breath and pointed toward the door. "Get out. Starting today, I never want to see you again." His tone was calm, terrifyingly calm. Willow panicked at last. "Makoto, I didn't mean." "Willow," I interrupted, taking one for the team like some tragic hero marching into hell. "He needs to rest. You've had a long day too. Let me take you home." Willow looked torn. She probably realized she couldn't stay here any longer. After hesitating for a moment, she finally left with me. Chapter 7. On the way back, she remained silent the entire time, clearly lost in thoughts of Makoto. When we arrived at the villa and the car stopped in front of the gate, I was just about to urge her to get out when she spoke first. "George, there's something I want to say." She sounded like she'd made a major decision and said slowly, "I've figured it out. The one I truly love is Makoto. Let's end this here." I kept a calm expression, but inwardly I was already cursing. "Please just stay away from him. That guy's already been messed up by you enough. Who the hell wants your so-called love? If you've got that much time, maybe try managing your company better or growing your business. How the hell does your company even stay afloat when your head is always filled with romance? No matter how much inheritance you've got, without a brain, you'll blow through it all." I lowered my head in silence for a while, then let out a long sigh and pretended to be relieved. "All right, Willow, I'll set you free." As I watched Willow's car drive away, I immediately messaged Makoto. Willow broke up with me just now. She might be coming to find you. If you don't want to see her, have the doctor cover for you, hide somewhere. Makoto's reply stunned me. She's just someone irrelevant. Whether I see her or not, why does it matter? Even through the screen, I could feel that cold indifference. This wasn't how the old Makoto would have treated Willow. Before I could figure out how to respond, he followed up, you mentioned hiring me before. Does that still stand? 1 month later, Makoto officially joined my company, but before the end of his first day, someone had already delivered an exquisite lunchbox. It was from Willow. Just seeing all the flashy details through the glass gave me a headache. Damn it, she's chasing her so-called true love again. This kind of plot is a must in every melodramatic toxic romance story. Because I showed up, the plot twisted early, and the heroine got fast-tracked. No, prematurely pushed into the chasing her ex after burning the bridge arc. Some clueless onlookers exclaimed enviously. Wow, that lunchbox is so pretty, but is something burning? Someone next to her quickly nudged her and whispered, are you crazy? That meal was handmade by Miss Liu herself. You dare critique it? They all instinctively shrank their necks, sneaked glances at my office, and quickly shut their mouths. I was honestly at a loss for words. Everyone knew Willow and I had broken up. And then she turned right around and publicly began pursuing Makoto again, without even trying to hide the fact that he now worked in my company. People who didn't know better might think she was doing it to humiliate me, but those who did know could only marvel at how completely her brain had short-circuited. I walked out of my office, and the crowd instantly stiffened and greeted me nervously, then scattered like flies back to their desks, pretending to work, ears perked to catch every juicy bit of gossip. I didn't care. I casually glanced at the lunchbox. Makoto awkwardly said, don't worry, Mr. Wong, I'll go get rid of it right now. I asked, you don't want this? Makoto nodded. He'd already given up on Willow long ago. Naturally, he wasn't going to be moved by such a low-level tactic. I didn't bother interfering and simply said, then deal with it yourself. Willow kept sending lunch every day for a whole month, but still failed to win Makoto's heart. His design projects were spectacular, boosting our company's performance dramatically. Everyone was now so busy their feet barely touched the ground. Who had time to care about some rich girl's romantic drama? Watching the numbers in my bank account climb rapidly, I was practically euphoric. See, a man's gotta focus on his career. Makoto seemed inspired too. He worked overtime every day, fully immersed in his job. He completely cut off contact with Willow, ignoring all her apologies and declarations of love. Finally, Willow couldn't sit still anymore. That afternoon, she showed up outside our company building, and the reason I knew right away was because everyone in the company recognized her car. Just 2 months ago, she was still coming by every day to pick me up, and now, she'd switched targets to chase Makoto. My colleagues all looked embarrassed on my behalf, but I was actually excited. Today's forecast predicted a heavy rainstorm. Was the heiress finally going to perform the classic love confession in the rain scene? To be honest, I love a good drama, so I joined the staff by the floor-to-ceiling windows to watch. Rain poured down in sheets, and that lone Maybach looked utterly ridiculous. Even more ridiculous was the woman who stepped out of it. Makoto was still at his desk sketching designs. His phone screen lit up, then dimmed again. He didn't even look at it. Willow must have only called once and then stopped. She threw away her umbrella and stood in the downpour. Whoa! The whole office gasped together. Someone finally called out to Makoto. Makoto, looks like someone's here for you. Come look. Makoto, confused, walked over and glanced down, his brow furrowed. I asked tentatively, you going down there? Makoto replied, call the police. Chapter 8, what the hell? Makoto said with clear impatience. She's been pestering me for ages. I ignored her, and now she's blocking the company entrance. That's crossing the line. Several co-workers nodded in agreement. Exactly. Women who are this impulsive, you really can't be with them. Who knows what reckless thing she'll do next? She's throwing away her pride to beg now, but in the future, she'll demand it all back tenfold. He already said he doesn't like her anymore. Why can't she just let go? It's ridiculous. I cleared my throat and said, she came to find you in this pouring rain, doesn't shake you even a little. Makoto answered coldly, she can just take some cold medicine. It's not like she broke her leg. I silently gave him a thumbs up. Makoto then asked me, oh right. Maria said her mom made braised ribs today. Want to have a drink together? Without hesitation, I said, let's go. So I had the driver pull the car out from the underground garage and took Makoto with me. As we drove out, we happened to pass right in front of Willow. She saw me, and saw Makoto sitting beside me. She froze, seemingly unable to comprehend why the two of us were together. But she hadn't forgotten why she was here. She quickly wiped the rain off her face and shouted toward Makoto. Makoto, I know I was wrong. Please, give me another chance. I stepped on the brake and took a good look at her through the window, fully appreciating her current sorry state. Where was the old Willow now? That haughty heiress who used to act like her word was law. I asked Makoto. Not gonna say anything. Makoto thought for a moment, then finally rolled down the window just a crack. We're in a hurry to get home and eat. Please don't block the way. With that, he quickly closed the window again, as if afraid the rain, or something filthy, might drift inside. Willow stood frozen on the spot, like she'd turned to stone. The driver hit the gas, and the spinning tires kicked up a splash of water that soaked her head to toe. In the rearview mirror, that woman stood lost and hollow-eyed, like she had no idea how things ended up this way. I checked my phone. Makoto had just won a Best Design award. Designer Ito. Impressive, I praised. Shouldn't we order a few more dishes to celebrate? Makoto chuckled. Mr. Wong, you're an honored guest. We'll definitely treat you right. After that day, Willow disappeared for a long while. At first, people said she was sick, a cold had turned into pneumonia, and she stayed in the hospital for quite a while. Later, word got around that her company had run into serious trouble, a broken cash flow chain. She'd always had vultures circling around her, and now that she'd collapsed, they couldn't wait to pounce and stir up chaos. But in the end, she was still the protagonist. After 6 months, Willow managed to regain control. By then, though, the Liu family was severely weakened by internal strife and began to decline rapidly. I seized the opportunity to swallow up the market share Liu Corp had lost. With Makoto's help, our company kept growing and eventually completely outpaced the Liu family. On the day of Makoto and Maria's wedding, I was the best man. The ceremony was grand and extravagant, full of joy and laughter. I happily ate and drank along with everyone. Just as the wedding was wrapping up, I caught sight of Willow in the distance behind the crowd. She looked utterly worn out, no trace left of the elegant and refined woman she used to be. I quickly looked away. Up on stage, the couple exchanged rings and vows to stay together forever. As they kissed beneath the gaze of countless guests, Willow finally couldn't take it anymore. She turned and left in embarrassment and defeat. I raised my glass with the newlyweds. Congrats, brother, happy marriage. Only when you find the right person does love really mean something.